Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFLW Fantasy Fanatics podcast ahead of the 2025 AFLW Fantasy season. We are very, very close. It is round 1 week. We are only a few days away from when this gets uploaded. We're recording on Sunday night, but this will obviously be uploaded on the Monday. But I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And joining me, as always, is my co-host and fellow AFLW Fantasy Fanatic, Tom Hales, 2024 Men's Fantasy Classic runner-up. Mate, how are you?
I'm all good. Very excited. A few days now until round 1, and I can stop tinkering and just lock my team in and see how that goes for the 2025 season.
Yeah, mate. I'm sure we're all very, very keen, as is this man. But he's had a massive, massive preseason along with all the other legends at Free Kick, the official AFLW fan. Maybe breathe a little bit because we're only a few days out from the season, mate. It's exciting times.
It is exciting times, and it is also, just as you said, inching closer to the end of the preseason, which honestly, it mirrors an actual football preseason where the volume of grunt work that you go through when you finally get to the season time, it's like, oh, normalcy can reign supreme now. I do one podcast, I do one live recording, I do one article, not just however many things there are to do at any one time. I think anyone who's kind of in the fantasy content grind, this time of year, you're like, I cannot wait for that first ball to bounce. It will just get so much easier.
Yeah. And even during the season, right, like I felt that would have been this week before recording the captain's video. It'd been all videos had been like, oh, I'm looking forward to recording captains, going through the captains. Whereas this week I'm like, oh, I've got to record captains again because it's like there's a couple weeks of men's season, but the excitement builds because we are now only a few days away from AFLW and AFLW Fantasy kicking off on Thursday night with Carlton and Collingwood playing there. So no men's Thursday night footy, which is great. All focused on the AFLW. We can get our teams all in order. But I guess that they're the big questions, right? We've got to get our teams in order. So we're going to go through line by line and go through, I guess, the big question or two in each line that we're facing there. So we'll start off with the defense. And Liam, you chatted about with us just before we went and chatted, is that how mid-priced heavy is too mid-priced heavy in the defense, because there are so many good options between that 600K to 750, 800K range that we're looking at. And you've got a few of those options above 800K that coaches are looking at. But how many is too many in your eyes?
Look, I don't know how many is too many. I just think that given, Maddie Gay was someone that I had been personally spruiking because I felt like there was still room to grow for her score with the Bombers' early matchups. Now she's sprained her ACL. That's freed up cash, which we'll talk about later. A lot of it's going into the midfield now. Tilly Lucas-Rod spent time off half forward in the second half of the practice match in a bit of a shock. Now, I don't think that they were someone who was as popular as Gay. I don't know if they have quite the same value, but that's another $1 million option in defense that most people aren't picking. If you are sitting there going, I want to pick a high-priced defender, you're probably picking one or two of Thomas and Watson. And then it's a question of 3 or 4 mid-price, kind of sub 800, maybe anywhere down to, 600, 500K you want to go with. And then the next question, and I think the thing that really determines it, is do you want to run with a rookie defender on field? I think that there are maybe 4, well, I reserve the right to rephrase this if I can remember anymore. I think there's maybe 4 rookie defenders that I'm considering at the moment, and that needs to be weighed up against the kind of options, particularly at F5. If you're confident in not running with a rookie on field and defense, I think you can have 4 mid prices there. But then you need to think about, how unstable it is if 2 of those options go wrong drastically. I'm looking at Georgia Stathis as 5 or whatever it was, 7, 9. I honestly can't remember what it was last year, but terrible, so bad that it immediately requires a restructure and you've lost 200k. Do you want to be doing that all in defense if you are going to take multiple throws at the stumps in that cheaper mid-price range? Or do you want to try and limit your risk there, try and spread your risk across different lines so that you spread the likelihood that the options for trade-ins which pop up weeks 1 and 2, or rounds 1 and 2, are ones that you can jump on kind of as an even spread across your team?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, an interesting debate. And Tom, I want to ask you about, are you considering starting a rookie? Because my current structure from our team review was I've currently got Jess Wrench sitting there at D5. She looked really good in the practice game playing the midfield for West Coast. And I guess with a restructure, because defenders are not as expensive as those mids, it's a little bit easier to restructure, I guess, in defense compared to if you had to restructure anywhere else, right? So are you thinking about a rookie in defense at all?
I currently am, purely because the way I want to structure up with my side currently, recording this Sunday night before the season starts, I'm looking at how much cash can I get to spend in the positions where points are being scored, which is the midfield, and maybe I might even be able to squeeze a 5-strong midfield and a Mim strong in my side. It does mean I've got to make some cuts elsewhere, and that brings a player who scored a 70 in the preseason game playing in the midfield as a rookie defender. I think for me, with the way I want to set up, that's a no-brainer to have on field. If you want to go a bit cheaper in the ruck, because I know great work the guys have done at free kick, and with the data from the preseason games last weekend, ruck scores are down for a multitude of reasons to do with the new rules this year. It might be that if you don't want to spend up in the rucks and go with cheaper rucks, you might have a bit more money to throw into your defense, and as a result, you don't have to go as cheap. The downside I see starting a rookie on field is that I don't really want to. So if my mid prices fail, I've kind of got nowhere to go. So I might be bringing another rookie on field, which could be disastrous, especially in the defensive line.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that I think the Rucks is almost in that M5 spot's intertwined with, well, if you're not spending up there, you're probably going at D5 and not having that rookie. I think the rookie will allow you to get the more money into the mids and the Rucks. I guess what we'll do as we sort of wrap up with the defenders before we move to the mids is I'll get you guys to go one player in defense that you're quite keen on that the listeners can consider to put into their own team. So, Tom, I'll start with you. One defender, who are you really keen on to start?
Really keen is, I'm like lukewarm, kind of like Melbourne temperatures, not Perth temperatures, about all of the defenders. I'm going to go with Paxi Paxman. I think they have a proven fantasy scoring ability. Melbourne's ball movement was very good in the preseason. They're going to look proficient trying to switch the ball. Price down in the 40s. I don't see them going lower than that, and I see that as quite a safe mid-price, cheaper enabler option to be able to go more aggressive elsewhere.
Yeah, I like the shout. They're currently sitting in my side as well. Liam, for you, if there's a defender you're very keen on starting, who would that be?
Yeah, look, I don't think I'm, like Tom said, I don't think I'm very keen on any of them. There's none that I am. I have the preseason narrative, the storylines, the track record, the role, all matching up perfectly. I think, I'm splitting the difference between Bree Conan and Neve McLaughlin. Bree Conan I've kind of written about in a few different places, and I think there's an article out today, or Sunday, talking about the locks in defense, and I think that Bree Conan, priced at 57,738k, with a track record of scoring in the midfield, not during fantasy seasons, but during AFLW finals, when she's played in the midfield. And with the way that she played in the practice match, and with the fact that Kathy Spark does not appear to be quite the same inside midfield as she used to. So there is a spot there for that defensively minded midfielder. I think priced at 57, so 300k between the top of the line, I still think she has the capability to be top 5. Neve McLaughlin doesn't have quite the same upside narrative, doesn't have quite the same proven track record, but watching that game against Geelong, massively improved her stocks in my eyes. Doing her damn near best job to replace Dizzy Darcy with run and carry, nowhere near as much chaos as we used to see from Neve McLaughlin, who loved to just literally run around in circles and cause mayhem. Much more composed, easily the best ball mover outside of a very inexperienced Gold Coast defence, and that is a very kind way of me putting it. I think one of those two are the two that are... Well, one of those two is the one that I'm hottest on to start this season.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably would have said one of those two. So what I'll say is if you're going for a rookie, just Jess Wrench, right? So I obviously, when we recorded our last team reveal, hadn't watched that game yet, but watching a bit of that in the midfield, as you said, Tom, scoring a 70. As a rookie price player and playing midfield, that's going to be good things. So if that role is there and holds up, I think she's got to be at least your D6. And there's obviously the chat that we might be able to have her at D5. So currently now, who has got her at D5? Because I've currently got her. Tom, is she a D5 or D6?
D5 for me.
Liam?
Yeah.
Currently my D6. So before we move off defenders, a few questions to ask. Who are, like, if you were going to go Wrench D, like, who have you got as your defender on the bench? Because I see there being a few options. One of them is Beck Ott. One of them is Lou Field. The other one is Izzy Bacon. Where are you guys currently leaning as the next best option?
I currently have Beck Ott, but that is all dependent on teams this week. If she is rucking with Wardlaw, so therefore he's like the main ruck, I'm all in on starting Ott, because she's going to ruck. So her floor at least should be half decent. If she's sharing, I'm probably over to Lou Field, or just not in the side. She might just not be in the side, and then it's definitely not. That's how I'm kind of weighing it up. Yeah, I know that the ruck role could move, but we've got to start. You can only start with the role at least.
Yeah, and I'm the exact same, right? Yeah, I've currently got Beckott sitting there at D6, and Lou Field has been the other one that's been in there for a lot. I just think, well, you obviously were able to see a bit more of the game, Len, the pro what I did, the Richmond game. But Izzy Bacon had a bit of the role, but then that shifted, and she didn't really score a huge amount even in that role. So that's probably my only slight concern with her.
Yeah, look, it was actually what I saw in the match simulation against Carlton the week before that had me negative on Bacon. Tackles only really her avenue to scoring. Is not a natural accumulator, and I just think that she's going to be playing a very kind of I am second only to Mon Conti type of role in that midfield, and I think that bled into just her being immune to finding the pill. So I'm quite down on Bacon at the moment. I think that there is within there a good fantasy player. I just haven't seen it yet. And so I've kind of deprioritized. And then the other player, I knew I'd forget one. Ellie Brown is at 425k. Is an option to consider. And then Tessa Boyd, particularly if Sarah Wright is out longer term. She's away from the team at the moment for personal reasons. Comes in as a mature age recruit from the VFLW with a decent scoring pedigree. Nothing spectacular, but what I've heard from North, she has fit in seamlessly already. And if they're going to run up the score, there's going to be games where a 300k rookie sitting at fullback or at least if back pocket is able to just get enough chips sideways to get to that 40, that 50 to generate enough cash. So there are some options there, but yeah, I think Wrench is the number one. And then
Question
there
for you,
are...
Liam.
Yeah.
Ella Friend took kickings in the preseason game. 300k defender.
No. Do not.
No,
do
just no.
not. Do not. I cannot reiterate to you how little I rate Ella Friend as a footballer.
Fair enough. I had to ask the question to the listeners.
It's Ella Foe. It's not an Ella Friend. Ella Foe to watching decent football.
Okay, I had to ask it for the listeners because people might be looking for that 300k option, and
well,
at least that looks good.
If you're asking about Ella Friend though, does that, because obviously she took kick-ins, is that any worry for Serene Watson, who's one of the girls we're looking at starting at D1, right? It's probably her and Charlie Thomas. If you're paying up for someone, it's probably one of those two. Is that a concern, Liam, with Ella Friend taking some kick-ins, or do you just think that was a practice game, real stuff, Serene Watson will be the main kick-in taker?
I would love to be able to say it's practice match, doesn't matter, but there's a little bit of concern. It's not enough for me to fully remove Watson from consideration for D1 for me. It does make me question the sanity of certain individuals. If Ella Friend is going to be the one taking kick-ins.
I wonder who that could be.
No, we're not going to name names.
No, your second favourite AFLW coach.
Yep, definitely. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's a flag, and it's kind of what I alluded to at the beginning, which is there aren't any defenders at the moment where I'm like, yeah, they are green flags all the way, the whole way through my preseason research, the practice match, everything that I've read and seen suggests bang, like smash pick. There's no Laura Gardner equivalent in defence this year. There's no player who's playing bulk midfield time that we know can score when they go there and looked incredible in the practice match. Just isn't that person. Serene Watson's flags are the team that she plays for and small things in the practice match like other people taking kick-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, very good flags. And it's a good part, mate, to say about defence as well, right? Because we have people like Isla Sheeran and Maddie Newman that probably would have been good picks if they'd kept defender stats, but they're both midfielders only. So that's obviously frustrating. But hopefully Bree Conan is that player for us, plays a bit of midfield and can score really, really well. But we'll move to the midfield where this is where we're spending a lot of our money, and someone that's taking up over 10% of that, of the salary cap, or pretty much about that anyway, is Ebony Marinoff. And we've had this chat, obviously, a little bit, Liam and Tom on this, but Ebony Marinoff currently, as we sit here recording, is currently owned by 72% of the competition, and she's $1.878 million, which if anyone wants to look at the second most expensive player, which is Jazz Garner, that is a very big sum of $418K between them. Liam, is it as simple as just put Marinoff in your team, and then whatever salary you've got left is what you work with? You just lock in the 1.878 million, you lock in Marinoff? Or is there a case to be made? We've got other midfielders that can put up 100, 110 average that you can try and get a bit crafty with value and try and go away from Noffy.
I think, and look, I've been consistent all preseason in saying, you just structure yourself around Ebony Marinoff. There are enough value options in the midfield, in the forward line, to make up for that gap. Because I've also said that I think it's unwise to assume that Ebony Marinoff will score the same again this year. I think the reason you pick it is, A, the captaincy advantage, which means, again, I don't think I'm picking a red dot loop this year. I will be expecting to straight see Marinoff, and short of something spectacular, I don't expect that to change. I think that if the preseason information that we got in the AFLW was more substantial, was longer, we had a better sense of the impact of new rule changes on who's improving and who's not, we would have more information to be able to go against the grain on someone who averages 30 points more than the next highest person, because this is a game that so often preaches value. But given the information environment that we operate in, it is too difficult for me to say confidently enough to go against 72% of the competition. Yes, I know who the value options are to justify not picking Ebony Marinoff. And that's before you even consider the first 3 games. And I know that it's something you've mentioned on here before. It's something we've discussed. It is a good first 3 games to play, even if Ebony Marinoff's scoring is typically lowest for her season in round 1. Because I think part of it, just I don't think she likes the hot weather. Or maybe she doesn't like the cold weather, whatever it is. Round 1, like preseason football as well, it's not Ebony Marinoff's gear. I still don't trust myself to pick the right options to justify not going with her, particularly in this environment where we don't know what the impact of lower, potentially fewer stoppages per game is going to have on a game that has been so frequently driven by high stoppage scorers, and not, as you do with men's, on halfbacks, accumulators with marks, short kick merchants, all of that kind of stuff. That is not the way that the AFLW has been played up to date. That may shift now as the AFL tries to move it away from rolling stoppages. But until we see that, it's just too hard to go against it.
Yeah. Well, people know my thoughts on this. I am not going to go against Marinoff because as a Crows fan, and that goes to all Crows home games, that be the men or the women's side, I won't be able to go to any of those home games if I don't have Marinoff, because I will not be able to watch because I won't have Marinoff on my side. So to have my insanity while I go to a Crows game and cheer Noffy and the Crows on, I've got to start her. But Tom, you're a little bit more partial to that as well. So what are your thoughts on Noffy? Because obviously you've messaged me a few times, toyed with like, oh, could I do it? But at the moment, I think she's still in your side. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've dabbled. I've very much dabbled with no Noffy, and I think there's 2 main facts why I think I will go with it. I think my advice would be to go with Noffy. One, her run is gorgeous. It's not like she's starting red, and you're going, oh, well, she could average 105 for the first 3 weeks and drop a whole boatload of cash and then jump on when she's cheaper and you've made that cash on the rest of the competition. And also, for me, not picking Noffy would allow me to definitely pick, say, Mim Strom at R1. And with Ruck scoring potentially down this year, having Mim Strom as a potential captain option, and if she could keep up her last kind of back half of last year, averaging 130-ish, and maybe being able to get some captain scores to rival Noffy, I just don't see. I just think you're going to lose too many points, and it's too big of a risk. In men's and women's fantasy, you can lose your team in your starting squad. You can't win it. I just don't want to lose it by not picking Noffy and she going 140 for the season and just never being able to get up to her.
Yeah, it's good. It's good shout. It's good shout. So anyone's been following along with the men's stuff, I feel like that's where I probably went a bit wrong this year. My starting side, so I want to make sure I get this AFLW fantasy side in tip-top shape ahead of round 1. Probably the next question we'll go to for the midfield is, how deep is too deep? Like, do we run rookies in the midfield? Do we go 5 deep? I think that, Liam, you talked about this in the articles you wrote and in your team reveal that you did on afl.com.au, which it sounds cool to say that, actually, by the way. Georgie Prasparkas, I think, is just locked into our sides. She's under $1 million. She had 40 disposals, and she was injury plagued last year. So she's in everyone's side, along with probably Kiara Bowers, who is very, very underpriced after missing all last year through pregnancy. They're probably in your M3 to M5, but Liam, is Praspargas your M5 or your M4? Because a few people might go, well, do you play a Zippy Fish or something like that at M5, or a Georgia Patrikios, if you want to go a little bit more mid-priced? Where are you currently sitting with, or where do you think probably the best structure is at the moment?
Yeah, I'm really struggling. And I think that this is another one where if Ash Centra had played at either the match sim or the practice match, I think that it would be a far greater likelihood that I would start with a rookie at M5 if she had scored well, which she has an elite fantasy pedigree. And I think the question then becomes, the price of your M5 is probably going to dictate, well, it will absolutely impact your kind of round 1, round 2 trade restructures. So if you're running Patricios, going down to a midfielder, bringing Fish, Centra, Howley, Painter, whomever it might be, as a rookie on field, frees up cash immediately, but it's not a ludicrous amount of cash that you're then going to be sitting there going like, well, I'm just absolutely fundamentally changing how my team sits, and I might even be sitting with too much cash next week, and it's going to be uncomfortable. I think that's a good spot to be in. But I also think the case can be made that if you're really confident in a number of the high-priced forwards or defenders, then running with Zippy Fish, who at this stage would to all viewers look to be the best scorer from the entire rookie bunch, the entire rookie price bunch that we got at the moment. Her role, her capability, her pedigree as a junior, having played not just as a midfielder but also as a halfback at Waffle W level, would point in the direction of her being, this year's version of Shanae Goody, for example, who can just put up really solid scores super quickly and probably has a better role than Goody did. It is just a question of, if we have lost we've lost our highest priced defender to an injury. The second highest priced defender now has role concerns. The highest priced forward has a dreadful role and was comfortably the most expensive forward too in Charlie Goldsworthy. And then we have ruck questions. And at this stage, I'm not confident in answering what will happen with the ruck, but my eyes tell me that there will be a dip. And then the numbers suggest that even in the less contested practice matches, teams were well down on contested possession numbers, thereby impacting rucks. Given all of those high-priced options that we're not picking now, all signs point towards picking a more expensive midfielder running an expensive M5. And I think it's Patricios, Gaylor, Prasparkas, Newton is another option if you want to throw her in the mix and you don't want to go all the way up. You don't want to be, Prasparkas I think is still cheaper, but if you've got Prasparkas and Newton M4, M5, there are some options in that price range. And I do not doubt that there will be other players this season who are able to score in a similar fashion to what we saw, say, for example, Ashley McCarthy last year, and really bump that, 25 points up into the 100 range. At the moment, that's where I'm leaning, just because of all of the other high-priced options that we've now lost on other lines, and just having the greatest confidence in the midfield.
Well, I've got a question for you guys regarding starting big in the mids, and it's around cash generation. So this AFLW season is the longest AFLW season to date, with 12 rounds. As a result, early points are going to probably be slightly less important, and cash generation is probably going to be slightly more important because you're going to be able to complete your team. So completing your team, having the better team the quickest, will, I think, win out more this year. Are we? And also, I think we have probably the best value in the midfield or the biggest chance for points increase, therefore cash increase in the midfield, is starting too many fully priced midfielders, say 3 of the 1.2 and up kind of midfielders. So like Marinoff, Riddell, and Gardner are the 3 in my side at the minute. Are you going to drop behind on cash generation in that respect, knowing that you're probably not going to get as much cash generation in the positional positions just due to the cap in scoring ability?
I think that it's a good question to ask. And I think that for Marinoff and Riddell and Garner in particular, I don't expect substantial value. If I'm going on like the next layer of analysis on stoppage scoring, I think that Riddell of all the high-priced midfielders, is the most likely to benefit from a less contested stoppage game just because of her ability as a second layer midfielder. She doesn't just need to score. I'd say that if we had them for the entire season, she would want to be one of the leading handball receive players, and she's so incredibly good below her knees. But I don't expect there to be much value. But that then leads me to the question of, I think that there's value in Rowbottom, Gardner, Bowers, Prasparkas. The question then becomes, are you only valuing cash generation for the sake of using it then to upgrade to other players? Or is it just a case of getting value for dollars that you spent on your team? So each dollar you're getting, $1 for every 75 cents that you're paying in the midfield. I don't care if I'm not trading them out until week 8 and I'm then just sidewaysing premiums because I've got good value on what I spent at the beginning. And I think that Gardner is priced well below her 112 that we've seen before, and is again one of the, I've called her this now multiple times, is an Ash Riddell clone in the way that she plays. Bowers' value on her previous price, there's no guarantee that she will return to what we've seen in the past, but I still think that she is unders what she's currently priced at. And then Prasparkas, I think, is 20-point unders straight away. And even if she doesn't become the 100+ that she was 2 years ago, she continues to see tags. I still think getting that 20 points of value is enough, even if they feel fully priced compared to other lines.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm also tossing up is that, I've currently got Tom again. I feel like we've got the same team because we chat so much about it. We're just like, we've got a lot of the same players. But I've got the 3 expensive $1.3 million midfielders, then obviously Prasparkas and Bowers. But then I'm like, well, I've still got Fish and Centra on the bench, but then I don't have a Patrikios. And that sort of begs the question, well, it's like if a Patrikios or a Gaylor or someone like that pops in round 1, maybe that's where we go, well, we're trading at a premium, but we're getting the value in that sense. And then we're upgrading maybe because we've got the 3 trades. It makes it a lot easier to then go, well, if you got a premium, say down, and then you go and use that money elsewhere, I guess it'll make restructuring easier. And I just sort of come back to the fact that midfield is where the points are at. Like if you look at all the players from last year in terms of their average, you've obviously got the only players averaging over 100 that wasn't a midfielder. There is only one, and that's Mimstrom. Everyone else is over at 101. You had Marinoff, Garner, Riddell, Rowbottom, McCarthy, Anderson, and Gardner, and that's including some other players that could even make that leap into the hundreds, maybe like a Hatchard, Conti, Blackburn, Roberts, Prasparkas, Bowers, those type players. So I'm thinking that I'm going to start a few of those scorers, and if I need to restructure, then I might be able to deal with that in round 2.
Ash Centre is named. Are we picking her for definite? If she is, I'm not saying she is. I'm saying
I've currently
is Ash Centre
powers of pure prediction. She's getting named.
She's getting named.
I've still got her in utility because I keep coming back to the fact that in the men's fantasy, I know it's different, right? But I'm going to use my learnings of. I didn't start Levi Ashcroft, who we said was one of the top scoring rookies in that class. We assume that Centra will be like that, one of the top scoring rookies in the class. So I'm thinking it's better to start her and then pivot away if something were to happen, because you wouldn't like it if you don't start without her. She puts up a 60, 70, 80 score in the first game, and you're sitting there going, well, I've now got to try and bring her in next week. That's a trade done. That's sort of where I'm sitting, but there are some other options, obviously, Len, that you did mention as well. So you can pivot. So what do you think about it, Len?
The same. At the moment, my team's structured up to have her in utility. I don't think she's locked away if named. There might be another structure that I prefer. I don't think I want to be going too cheap, though, in utility, because in all likelihood, that's the spot that I will use to make other trades work. And if Centra is the one that's there and she ultimately has a stinky role, given we have no idea how she's going to do and what she's going to play, or if she's going to be playing full game time. I was doing some writing today and just kind of thinking about it, like I think that there's still a role in that Collingwood team from the team, like based on what I saw. I think that there are some CBAs that will be there for her. I don't particularly think that the forward line is well structured at Collingwood. Even if they did win, they can't kick straight. They don't have a lot of size. Their best rucks are also their best forwards in Sabs Frederick and Imogen Barnett. There are any number of reasons to still think she can put up a decent score. Better to have her than to not at this stage, which I don't love. I really hate not having seen her play in this system at all. A system that we've not really seen breed any kind of good scores in one season so far. But I think that her pedigree is undeniable. And given, I'm happily considering paying, 450 odd K in defense for someone like Ellie Brown. Why would I not go with someone who's, scored a 190 as a junior less than 12 months ago?
Yeah, exactly.
I completely agree. I just wanted to ask the question because we've not seen it, right? And if she's got as early goals where having a cup of tea with the goal umpire for Collingwood, like, is it going to be worth the extra coin? But I completely agree with you guys. I think if she's named, I think you just got to do it and see it, and then we get 3 trades a week. If it's absolutely horrific, she's got money on her head that might allow us to sideways to someone who pops a score rather than starting with all 300k bench options.
And that's normally what the first few rounds are about, right? The first sort of few rounds with the 3 trades is fixing up a few things, and then probably by round 3-4, that's when you're sort of trying to get those upgrades sort of done. But before we move on to the rucks, one player each that we're pretty, besides Marinoff, that we're pretty keen on in the midfield. So Liam, I'll start for you for this one. In the midfield, who are you really keen to start?
I'm going to say Ash Riddell, just based on that secondary layer of analysis that I'm doing on contested player scoring. I think that her and Gardner are very well placed to score very well if the progression as a result of these new rules occurs kind of as I have mapped it out in my head, with the massive caveat that it is almost completely hypothetical. I have seen 2 match simulations and 9 preseason games to base this off. It is by no means set in concrete.
Yeah, I like the shout. Tom?
I'm going for the last player to out-average Ebony Marinoff. So that's Kiara Bowers, average 120, I think, 2 years ago. Only didn't play last year because of pregnancy. Priced at under 90. The 3rd biggest lock in everyone's fantasy teams.
Yep. No, I fully agree with that. And I'll go probably the other easy one there. And in Georgie Prasparkas, after seeing that practice game, it's under $1 million. She averaged 100 a couple of years ago. I think we just got to lock her in at least to M4 or M5. I think she's just got to be there. She's just too cheap, as Liam said. 20 points underpriced to start off. That's very, very nice there. So now we'll move to the rucks.
Right.
We have all the questions. All the questions that you have about any rucks, we're asking those exact same questions. So, Liam, what say you about the rucks? Because I think a lot of us are like, who knows?
Yeah, it's a bit like that, to be honest. Look, at this stage, I think I'm down to 3 options, and I'm at this stage not sure that I'm willing to pay up for Minstrom. I think that there's just enough of a chance that with a tough first month of games that, I just don't know if there's that same spot for her to be going 110 plus again to start the year. So it's looking at Schultz, Moffat, and Lucy Wales. Schultz is the best value and has, the trajectory on her side completely, rising star, has the complete ability to take over the game. And if we want to talk about, lower contested game plans, she plays in the one team that is so stridently and ridiculously stubbornly contested in Port Adelaide that they might be able to resist the tide of uncontested football and trying to stop rolling stoppages. And so I therefore am willing to say, you know, she's got the ceiling, she's got the talent, she's got the team. Her run is fine, if nothing spectacular. And then Morfitt has a little bit of a discount. It's still expensive. But if we're going to talk about ruck scoring, until we'd seen Mimstrom, the best ruck scoring season we'd ever seen was Ali Morfitt 2 years ago. And her complete ability to just physically impose herself on every contest, dominate every ruck, completely physically control every matchup. But she comes with injury concerns for some, and then the weird addition of her playing in the midfield as a midfielder for whatever reason in the fourth quarter of the practice match, which certainly confused me. I don't know if it's good or bad. Well, yeah. I don't know if she has quite the same agility as Luke Jackson. If we had DPP, maybe it would make Ali Morfitt easier to pick. But the fact that she is ruck only and I have to pick one, I don't know if I'm certain on what Scott Gowans is going to do with it to start the year. And then Lucy Wales, and something I said on the free kick pod of the Rucks for their kind of official stream. If we're going to look at players that have the Mimstrom trajectory, so far, Lucy Wales has done it to a T and has the ceiling games, scored the best of all the rucks in the preseason, has great hands above her head and below her knees, plays in a team where I think that if she's open for a switch, she will get used. And if you want to use like a men's comparison, you know, both Gawn and English are often used in that switching spot. I think they've all teams to do it. Like I trust, and I hate that it's Hawthorn that has such a good coach, but I trust Daniel Webster to coach his team to not turn it down because Lucy Wales is good enough. That's where I'm currently.
Jono would love that you said that as well.
Oh, he's heard me say it before. Like, that's fine. Like, we've got to look past it now. The fact that they've gone from one of the worst coaches when they were playing to one of the best is just a glow up of all glow ups. It's where I'm currently looking. I don't trust the viability at the moment of the roles of the cheaper rucks to stay there. You know, Liz McGrath. Like, I don't believe in Daisy Pearce picking the same ruck every week. And if that happens, then you're in trouble. You know, Brene Karras didn't play. Matilda Dyke's not a good scorer. And if we're looking in the 600, like in the average around 60, I think Edmonds, you know, they really don't like her as much as a kick. And that's kind of led to her scoring worse in the past, you know, season and a bit. They've also picked up a ruck highly in the draft who comes in with a huge scoring pedigree. You know, I just don't have enough confidence in those cheaper options. I have enough cash to pick someone at that around about that $1 million mark. So I think that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah. I think a lot of us are looking at that because I was pretty keen on Mimstrom, but as you say, Lem, after watching those Pracky games, ruck scores being down, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense paying a 1.4 million price tag when you can use that money in the midfield and pick an Ash Riddell or a Jazz Garner or someone around that price where you know what you're going to get. Okay, you might get maybe a few points of maybe downside, maybe upside, you don't know, but they'll be around the mark. But you very much know what you're likely to get from those players. And Tom, I guess that's with Rucks, obviously, Liam just mentioned it. Is there any consideration from you about rookie or rookie-esque rucks? So, like, Piper Dunlop is a very popular R2 playing and had a very good score in the Pracky game. And obviously, as Liam mentioned, Liz McGrath. So let's obviously assume that, let's say Liz McGrath's named solo, or at least if it's Lakai and then they're doing the sharing role, but Liz McGrath's named R1. Is there any part of you that will go, I'll consider the rookie rucks? Because as Liam said, I guess with Liz McGrath, it's like, well, does Daisy Pearce just change up the week after? Because they have like a heap of rucks that can be named at any point. And then if Piper Dunlop, someone comes in, then it's sort of like you've got to try and completely restructure.
If Liz McGrath is named solo against Lauren Bella, I'm
pretty
sure she's out. And Lauren Bella, Liam?
Lauren
Bella. She was a test.
Is she out?
We haven't she just didn't play in the game. We don't know what the extent of the concern is.
But Lauren Bella is a very capable, strong ruck. if Liz McGrath is named solo against her, I am 75% sure I will go Liz McGrath Piper Dunlop.
What's your restructure if McGrath's named dual ruck with Lakai the week after?
Well, then I'm praying Piper Dunlop can just be fielded. Like my restructures, rookie. I really want to go rookie Rucks. I feel like rookie Rucks
works most years.
Yeah, in AFLW, rookie Rucks has tended to work. It is one of the safest scoring routes for scoring it in AFLW. I know Rucks might be scoring slightly less this year, but usually okay for a 50-60, which you might not get, especially from defenders and forwards. So that's what I'm hoping to do. However, if McGrath is sharing, it's just a no. I'll go up to the band that Liam talked about, and that's what's currently in my side in my bus team. That's currently sitting at the minute. I could even go down to 300s with a Courtney Murphy alongside Piper Dunlop, but I think that is literally it's 3 to win. There's no one backing up, and I'm throwing at the stumps. If I hit, I've got a chance of winning the World Cup. If I miss, see me in 2026. See me in 2026. Like that's kind of where I'm at with the Rucks. But it is a place where I'm kind of okay to have a little bit of a gamble, because of what the extra money allows me to do, picking a D1, taking rookies off the field, in that respect.
Yeah, and I guess if you do go rookie rucks, right, have a bit of a plan in place to restructure around. I think the reason I'm probably not on there at the moment, because I remember starting Eilish O'Dowd last year on the bench, and I restructured after a couple of weeks, and I think it was Jess Allen last year. I went her down to a rookie and put Eilish O'Dowd on field. So I think I'm more leaning towards, well, I'll see how Piper Dunlop goes. I'll see how Liz McGrath goes. If Liz McGrath looks great, solo ruck, or even Sharon Lakai, but still looks good, and Piper Dunlop looks great, I guess I have more confidence to then go, even if I start Matilda Schultz, for example, I'll be happy to go, okay, well, I'll go her down. I'll go get the money there. That'll restructure if I need that cash elsewhere. And I'm not locking myself into rookie structure, because I think it's better to go down to the rookie structure than go up to if it doesn't work, if that makes sense. That's sort of where I'm currently leaning. But I think it's saying that teams, if Liz McGrath's solo, it could be very, very interesting and tempt a lot of people to look at that. So but because
my only big worry is none of these kind of upper mid-price, low premium ruck options have good runs to start the year. Like that,
there is only one, and that's Jess Allen. Funnily enough,
or Poppy Kelly, but she assumes she's sharing. Like that's So that's my only worry about going for these. They could also struggle alongside Limstrong.
Yeah. And I thought about Jess Allen as well, because I saw the run. I'm like, oh, that could be tempting, because I started last year. I just worried that, and I know, Liam, you've talked about this, is that she's a very good tap ruckman, but can she get enough of the ball around the ground and get those stat lines up to then be a consistent scorer? Because she'll get 20, 30 hits a game, well, and maybe she might not, depending on how many stoppages we have, right? If there's less stoppages, but I guess that's my one worry. So I'm assuming that's the worry for you, and that's why obviously you didn't mention her in the band of 3 that you're currently looking at.
Yeah, that's essentially the crux of my concern. She's Jess Allen, looking at it now, ranks about, 12th, 13th for disposals per game for rucks, but it's below 10. And like, if you're looking at Schultz, 13.5, O'Dowd, 15, Strom, 16.5. That's a stack of points that they're getting from disposals where they aren't nearly as reliant on ruck contests to get it. And of the players that we're discussing, Lucy Wales, let's like in this band, like Lucy Wales, Ali Morfitt, Schultz, and let's throw Allen in there. Who has the most capable backup? It's Allen, because it is Caitlin Gould who, if we're going to talk about the other rule change, that's not the holding the ball rule change, it's the speed of ruck contests. I don't think Jess Allen's going to have nearly as many ruck contests inside forward 50 because of Caitlin Gould being there and her having been a full-time starting ruck in the past who is more than adequate, more than capable.
Yeah, that's a very, very good shout. Exactly. So, but obviously, because we're not going to name obviously one player each, because there's probably 3 or 4 we're considering, right? But who have we currently got at R1 as of time recording now? Who have we got? I've currently got Matilda Schultz sitting there, but I've been tossing up, as you say, Liam, all 3 of those of Lucy Wales, Ali Morfitt, and Matilda Schultz. Probably more keen on Wales over Morfitt if I'm ranking the girls and going Matilda Schultz at the moment. But where are you currently leading, Liam? Who's your current ruck at the moment?
It's Matilda Schultz as well.
Yep. And then Tom?
I currently have Ali Morfitt, but that's just was in a team structure building. I put the most expensive option in there and see what I could afford elsewhere. That almost definitely will change. It could be any one of those 3 or McGrath, depending on how my day goes on Thursday.
Exactly. And I'm assuming that we've all got Piper Dunlop as well as our R2. So that probably answers that one there. So we will move over to the forward line. And Liam, again, you mentioned this when you were chatting about, I think when we were chatting in defence, right, is that a lot of people have currently got Zali Goldsworthy in their side. And I believe she was over 40% owned, if I'm not mistaken. Now she's down at 28%, but she had not a very good role for fantasy. She had she had CBAs and go, great, midfielder, but she goes straight to forward, or she'll just play deep forward in general and just know the CBA. So I think the worries there. And then you look at Caitlin Gould, Ash Maloney, Greta Bodie, Alice O'Loughlin, Jessie Wardlaw, all the forwards over 800k, probably priced around what they're likely to do again. So probably not as much value. So Liam, where do you sit with the forwards? Because I guess a lot of people have probably got like an Ange Stannett who's value, which we'll obviously chat about. And then obviously the other popular one is a Chloe Malloy, who is just come off an ACL injury, will probably be eased into the season. So probably a lot of forward time. So probably not as confident there. Where are you at with the forwards at the moment?
Look, I'm sounding better than what was in the background of Tom's recording. Look, I think you've summed it up well. I don't like Zali Goldsworthy's role. It stopped being the CBA midfielder inside forward 50 role. From what I saw in the practice match, it is exclusively inside forward 50, very limited time in the midfield, which is a waste, in my humble opinion. But hey, at least sometime soon during the season, I hope and pray that the coaching staff figure out that Zali Goldsworthy is being wasted inside forward 50 and that having Tani Evans and Georgia Garnett is enough inside forward 50 and that you should be putting your best contested ball player not named Elise Parker in there. And so she'll be value. I guarantee you this season we'll be thinking about trading in Zali Goldsworthy with as much guarantee as I can give in fantasy predictions. And, you rightly raised the point that, and it's a question that's been asked now a few times, like I've got extra cash. Do I put it at my F1? Do I pick a key forward? Do I pick Gould? Do I pick Maloney? Do I take a look at Greta Bodie, who had probably the best ceiling score of any of the forwards kind of that were playing in the midfield last year? I think she had like a 130 odd with 5 or 6 goals.
Yeah.
And a bit of a wing role. And I'm just sitting there going, it feels risky for the reason that, if we talk about the impact of matchups on scoring, rucks are obviously one that often have a huge impact. And then I'd say key forwards are ones that are also hugely impacted. And it's quite often they're a late season option when you can make a 1 month play. A lot of us were trading in both Maloney and Gould for that exact reason, for the runs that they had to the back end of last year. But to pick for season long, it's a far riskier proposition. So at this stage, with little confidence, I've got Ange Stannett in there because I didn't see an amazing situation from Ange Stannett in the practice match. And there are flags that I cannot wave away, pun intended, from that Fremantle team, because the team that Stannett averaged 73, 75, whatever she did 2 seasons ago, is radically different to the one she's in now with McCarthy and Newton in there. And then even in 2023, Bowers missed a handful of games, and that was kind of when we saw the biggest explosion from Ange Stannett at the time. So again, this is another line where we have some kind of fundamental questions on the value options. I agree on your assessment of Malloy as well. I don't love just what I saw, and it's clear that, and Gowans has shown this, is a long-termist when it comes to building that Sydney side, and given the restrictions and difficulties that come with building a team in New South Wales for a long time, I expect that there will be a long, slow build of Malloy throughout the season. And then, other players that people are looking and have a lot of people have in their sides at the moment include people like Hannah Ewings, who's playing as a forward pocket at the moment, and I think will take some time to build back into her best form. So it, again, is another line that's going to be filled with cheaper options. And I think I have far less confidence in the scoring prowess or capabilities of the cheaper options in the forward line than I do in defence at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point with the forwards, right? There's probably not a huge amount of confidence with a heap of the options we're looking at. But I think a few people looking at their forward lines going, oh, well, I want to pay up for someone because it's too cheap, right? But we have got a very, very discounted player, and the second most popular player in AFLW Fantasy, that being one of your own Bombers, Liam, Bonnie Toogood, who was very, very cheap based on a couple of the early injuries last year. So I think she's locked in everyone's side. Price at 501k. She averaged 100 a couple of years ago. Even if she doesn't go 100 and averages about 70, she's still going to be a top 5 forward, and she's incredibly discounted. Think about, if you play men's fantasy, think of maybe a Bailey Smith type example. Incredibly discounted, but a lot better than what they're priced at. So, Tom, do you feel like that there's not that need for you to then go out and go, I need an F1. I need Caitlin Gould in there. I need a Greta Bodie. I need an Ash Maloney in there. I'll just go, I got Bonnie Toogood there, so I'll go some other value rookie type options to fill out those 5 spots on your forward line on your field.
I kind of see it in my side how I think I've got space for a D1 or an F1. So am I going to pick a Charlie Thomas, Serene Watson, or am I going to pick a more expensive forward? I think, and at the minute, I think I have, I think I've got Serene Watson in my side at D1. I think I've gone with that option. But I have no confidence in basically any of the forwards. So I would sooner go cheaper, where if someone gets a 45, it's not going to kill me, than paying up for someone who's still going to get me a 45.
Yeah. And I think that forward line's the least scoring position, right? It's got the least amount of players. They've got those ceiling capabilities. So you're probably not losing out a huge amount going a little bit cheaper. But I guess, Liam, how cheap is too cheap, right? Is that if we're looking at Ange Stannett as your F1, you've got Bonnie Toogood, who's there as well. Is there a number of rookies that you put in like F5, F4? Like, we've got a few players in the 400k range that could be options for us. And obviously there's a couple of players, mainly being a Montana Ham, for example, at 680k, where do you maybe go for someone like that that's got the junior pedigree scoring as a midfielder and may be able to have a bit more of that role in 2025? So where do you see that sort of with the cheaper options, Liam?
I think it's just having a dip at the cheaper options, because it's a mathematic situation here where the gap between the top price forwards and an okay rookie pick is far less than across any other line. So if it's McDonald, I say, is the kind of the best scoring rookie in the forward line from the preseason. Let's say what's kind of the upper bound on what she will average for the year? Let's say it's 45, 50. That's 25 points unders expectations for F1 currently. I won't say that with definitive, like that's absolutely going to be the maximum. If you go to, the options we might pick in defense, we've seen multiple players every year score above 80 as their average. And in that case, you just take the stab on the rookie forwards, knowing that you're going to be kind of cycling through them. We did it last year as well. We were able to carry Michaela Paunger, who wasn't an incredible scorer, but had just enough of a role, just enough tackles here and there to make it work, such that we could kind of roll with that at F5 for most of the season. And so, that's the kind of bargain that I'm making. That's the risk I'm taking to be able to pick a lot of mid prices in my defense. Then I'm going cheaper in the forward line. And I think if you are looking at worrying about your F1, is it too cheap? If you're looking to play for a top price forward, I would suggest almost just picking Charlie Thomas, because I feel as much as I don't know if there's a boatload of value in Thomas, you can kind of set your watch at this stage in fantasy terms to her averaging about 70. And I don't know if I'm doing that for any forwards at the moment that you're paying 900K for.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, actually. Yeah, because you're looking at Charlie Thomas, even Serene Watson, who you'd probably think you've got higher hopes for them in terms of compared to those other forwards. So, very, very interesting. The forwards is going to be interesting to see where people go. I guess we'll go through one player each that we're considering probably under 800K, because that's probably where a lot of us are looking. So, Tom, who would be the forward that you're looking at a lot as an option to start with?
So I'm going to talk about my current F5, and that is Grace Koss from GWS. Elisha Dowd, as far as I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, as far as we know, is still in Ireland. Therefore, you wouldn't expect,
correct.
Not going to line up round one, and there is a decent enough chance that Grace Koss will at least be sharing the ruck with Flo Davies. Scored 55 in the Pracky game. If can do something like anywhere near that, 45, 50, I'm going to say she's going to be the highest scoring forward rookie. As long as she has that ruck split. When that ruck split goes, her scoring might go with it. So you might need a jump-off plan, but she's currently my F5.
Yeah, I like it. Liam, just thoughts on are you looking at playing Grace Koss at F5 and then the forward that you're keen on?
I've currently got Koss at F6. I've got Emma McDonald at F5. But I've been playing around a lot in there. I've also liked what I've seen so far this preseason, definitely more in the map simulation from Kat Cox at Richmond. I also, think you could have a stab at a few other of those kind of 300K options. Blaheen Bogue at North Melbourne is another one. The player that I want to talk about is Brooke Tonin. So second highest scoring forward from the practice matches. Is a kind of mid-sized utility in previous seasons at Adelaide, priced at 35.4, playing purely as a mid-sized interceptor for Adelaide, did not shift from that spot at halfback. And in fact, Chelsea Bedell was the kind of defender who was thrown forward, where in the past that's been Brooke Tonin. And also, we did our interview with Jess Allen, and it was Tonin who was identified as the player who was, the one most likely to improve this year. It's not with a degree of confidence. It's not someone who's got the huge scoring pedigree. But if you look at how impressively someone that cheap can playing the role that she did against a team that is more than capable playing good football in Melbourne, which they did last week, I'm hard pressed to find someone that kind of impressed me more for the price that they're at in the forward line.
Yep, I do like the shout. Anytime there's a Crows player that's being talked about, that's good for me. But no, very, very good as well. And the player that I'm going to go with, I mentioned it before, but Montana Ham is the player that I'm pretty keen to start. So 680K, just been cruelled by injury to start her career. I remember watching her. I think she got injured. I believe it was her first game or second game. And then correct, was it first game that she got injured in or second game?
I think it was her second game, because in the first game she was the highest scorer for Sydney and then got injured midway through the second.
Yes, yep. Because I remember watching her in the first game, and even to start the second game, she looked fantastic playing the midfield. And yes, the midfield is very different to when she started. Laura Gardner's there, Sophia Hurley's broken out and is in there. Chloe Malloy will obviously get time in there, and then there'll be a host of other players that will run through there as well. I just think Montana Ham, from what we saw in the practice game, bit of midfield time. She'll probably spend a bit of time forward as well. Won't be that full-time inside mid, but she's got the junior pedigree. She's a forward. She's priced at 52.5. I think there's definitely capability to go well into the 60s. And with the forward line where we're not confident on those top forwards, I think getting someone like Montana Ham at 680K is something I'm pretty keen to start with. So, that is why she's seen there currently as my F2. So, we'll just go through one last question that we did get sent through, and then we will wrap up because it's been a longer pod, but I hope everyone has been enjoying it. So the question is from LM, so Lockie, saying, having built out my team but still have 1.5 million left over, what structure have you got on each line? So premium, mid-pricer, and rookie. So we'll quickly sort of whiz through that there and give Lockie a bit of indication, because I'm assuming he's trying to look to where to spend that extra $1.5 million. So Tom, I'll go to you. So probably we'll go through each line with defense, then midfield, then rucks, and that we'll do it. So we'll go through defense first. So Tom, what's your structure looking like in defense?
I have one premium, three mid-ish prices, and then one rookie in my defense.
I'm the exact same. Liam?
I have no rookies on field in defense, so it's 4 mid prices, 1 premium.
Yeah. We'll go to the midfield. Liam, we'll start with you for this one. Midfield, what's your structure?
No rookies on field, 2 mid-ish prices, if we can extend that, and then 3 premiums.
Yep, on the exact same. Tom?
I would say I'm 4 premiums and Jordy Prasparkis at M5.
Yep. And then rucks, obviously we went through our rucks before. Me and Liam had Matilda Schultz, and Tom, as a time recording, had Ali Morfitt there. And then we'll go to the forward line. So I'm currently sitting with 2 players over 600K, then Bonnie Toogood, and then 2 players under 500. Tom?
Same.
Same here.
And then same. Yep. So there you go. So that's sort of a similar structure. So hopefully, Lockie, that does help you out, and hopefully you can to where to spend that 500K. And then the last one here was from Fantasy Stardom. Says, is it a good plan to load up on 600 to 800K defenders with no rookies on field, and in doing so, fielding Fisher M5 instead of a Patricios type, allocating an extra bench spot for a good midfield rookie? So, Liam, what are your thoughts on Fantasy Stardom's question there?
As much as it's not my current structure, I think it's more than acceptable to be starting with. Whether it turns out to be the ideal one, who knows? But and it's not my current, but it would be hubris for me to say that it's incorrect and you shouldn't be doing it.
I agree.
I'd agree as well. I guess that the one we probably didn't touch on much in the midfield was Georgia Patricios. That's a decent option in the midfield to be looking at, I believe, in about 680K or 690K. What are your thoughts on starting her, Liam? Because I guess it's a good point where it's like you start her at M5, she fails, you can either go down or potentially up. It can sort of help you with structure stuff, but I guess then you're missing out on either one of those premium options in the midfield, or you're then using that, sacrificing that money in another position from a premium maybe down to a mid-pricer.
Yeah, I think she looks great. against Fremantle. She's got the scoring pedigree. She's got, albeit it was a long time ago in season 5 when she averaged 90 under a different coach. It's my degree of confidence in her scoring that I have some questions over, and that also turns on, her spot in the scoring pecking order at St Kilda. I think she, might struggle to score more than Jamie Lambert and Tiana Smith. Can she, break even with Jessie Wardlaw and then that's enough? Possibly. It's okay, and I like it from a structure perspective, and I like Amy Gaylor for the same reason as an M5, because it is a really swift downgrade to be and it's not a ludicrous amount of cash. You're not agonizing over someone that you would otherwise, trading out someone you would otherwise want to hold for the entire year to make cash in rounds 1 and 2.
Yep. And then Tom, any thoughts from you as we wrap up?
If I feel like she would be a really good, along with Gaylor, as Liam said, enabler if we had super priced other options in other lines. But as I'm less keen on the high price players, basically, apart from the midfielders, I don't think it's necessary. So in my opinion, I want to spend my money in those very precious 5 midfield slots.
Yeah. And I think I'm in agreement there as well. Like, I originally had her at M5 and I had Maddie Gay sitting at D1. But when Maddie Gay obviously went down injured, that changed everything. And I had then enough money to then restructure a little bit and go up. So that's currently why I'm not sitting with her in my midfield. But I do like Patrikios or a Gaylor as an option at M5 if you wish to go down that path. But that will wrap us up for a lengthy chat. But final preparations as we head into AFLW Fantasy for 2025. But Liam, it's always a pleasure chatting to you, but especially AFLW Fantasy now that he's back and we're raring to go. Where can the Pill find you across the socials? And where can people, I'm assuming that everyone that is here already listens to it, but where can they catch the Free Kick podcast?
Yeah, so you can find Free Kick wherever you get your podcast. We're on Twitter and Instagram at FreeKickWPod. You can find me on Twitter at Liam AFLW Fantasy. You can find myself and co-host Jono's backlog of articles on the AFLW Fantasy website. Free Kick itself has also been running a Substack this year where we have been doing, we have actually now finished our Clubs in Days preview, where we do a preview podcast for fantasy for every AFLW team, followed by a companion article for all 18 teams, which is not just about fantasy. And in fact, it's actually geared more towards giving you some insight into what each team is like from a real football perspective. And also it kind of helps to improve your understanding of the types of things we talk about that impact fantasy scoring. So a lot of stuff on game plan, a lot of stuff on most important players, on breakouts. We have some predicted best 21s. So we have put out thousands and thousands and thousands of words at this point of the preseason. I will be very glad when the preseason is done. But if you are trying to cram, there is umpteen things that you can read to try and kind of get ahead of the competition before first lockout on Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure you guys do check it all out and get prepared. But Liam, mate, thank you very much for jumping on with us. And Tom, mate, thank you for jumping on once again, mate. Where can the people find you, and any closing thoughts from you?
You can find me on Twitter or X at Tom_Hales_. And just good luck. Just back yourself in. It's going to be a fun ride for everybody, and good luck in 2025.
Yeah, exactly. And I echo those sentiments there as well. And you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials, and us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X. We'll be bringing you round review shows and pre-lockout chats as well throughout the AFLW Fantasy season. So looking forward to that. For anyone that wants to jump into the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics Open League, there's a post across all the socials about that. But the code for that one, if you have not joined yet, the code is BI1H5QVS. So that's a BI1H5QVS. And yeah, be interesting to see how you guys stack up against the other AFLW Fantasy Fanatics out there as well. So if you did tune on YouTube, please smash a like on the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And turn the little bell on so you don't miss when we're live or upload any other content, because there'll still be plenty of content for AFLW and also the last few rounds of the men's season as well. And if you're listening on the podcast and you could leave us a 5-star rating and review, that would be very, very much appreciated. And as we said, good luck, everyone, this season. And we'll chat to you guys a little bit later in the week for our pre-lockout chat. But thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. And have a good week. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.